Tonight, bail law outrage, growing fury following revelations Vilene White's accused teen killer had been freed by the courts. Now fresh calls for tougher penalties for young offenders.
Developing now, school students taken to hospital after ingesting a mystery powder.
King Charles and Prince Harry in a royal reunion amid the monarch's cancer fight.
A breakthrough in the fight against flight path noise. A Senate inquiry launched.
Banks and supermarkets exposed for price gouging families.
And the country caught up in Taylor Swift mania. The Queensland fans paying big money to see the superstar's only Aussie shows.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Sharyn Ghidella and Max Futcher.
Good evening. There is growing community anger tonight after it was revealed the teen accused of murdering Redbank Plains grandmother Vilene White was on bail.
The state government is under further pressure to act, with senior police pointing the finger at the courts.
We can't tell you his name or show you his face, but we can tell you he was known to police.
We do get frustrated, I'll be honest, we get frustrated when we see serious repeat offenders committing more offences.
The 16-year-old charged with the murder of Vilene White was on bail for other stealing offences at the time of her death.
There will be times where, people look back in hindsight and say if a different decision was made, there might have been a different outcome.
It shouldn't happen. And that's my view. That's the view of the officers. We don't want to see that happen to anyone.
But yesterday, the Premier said nothing could have been done.
Nobody can seriously stand up and say they could have prevented this murder.
A lot of hypotheticals there, and I think our heart will always just be broken for the White family and what happened to them.
What's it going to take for the government to get on the same page as the rest of Queensland?
Adding fuel to the community's outrage.
I don't understand. The police do all the hard work and the courts let them out.
We don't have a bail problem. We've got a judge problem, and we need to hold them to account.
The 16-year-old is facing 1 count of murder, unlawful use of a motor vehicle, and 3 counts of stealing. Under the Youth Justice Act, he can only be sentenced to a maximum of 10 years if found guilty.
I encourage those that aren't to reflect on the community sentiment and use the tools in their toolbox, which are strong and measured and reflect the community expectation.
Even if the laws change as bail as the last resort, we're still going to see young offenders and adult offenders get bail.
And it's weighing on Queenslanders. An exclusive 7 News survey revealing 78% of viewers don't feel safe in their suburb.
Do those results concern you? That
Well,
don't feel safe?
It's a priority of government that the community is safe, so of course.
We put our survey results to the Premier, but he declined an on-camera interview. Instead, in a statement, he doubled down on what the government is doing to address youth crime, saying Queensland has some of the toughest laws in the country.
This government has taken a very strong approach to ensuring community safety is prioritised by the courts.
If you are serious about doing something about youth crime, you're serious about rewriting the broken Youth Justice Act. We are.
As a crisis reaches breaking point. The Premier did make time to speak with Police Union President Ian Levers today to listen to what changes officers on the front line want to see. The union is suggesting that wanting powers be expanded to include all public places, as well as ankle monitors for all juveniles who are on bail. Currently, there are only 5 in Queensland wearing those monitors, which gives police the power to track them. Now, Ian Levers says that the Premier was very receptive and wants to listen, and has now requested a face-to-face meeting with the union to hear more about those suggestions. But we are yet to hear any solid commitment from the government that it will look at making further changes to those laws.
Anna McGraw at State Parliament. Prince Harry has raced from LA to London to see his father following the King's shock cancer diagnosis. But the pause in their royal rift may not extend to William. The brothers are not expected to meet.
It was the public's first glimpse of the King since his diagnosis, and may well be the last for weeks or months to come. 2 days into his cancer treatment, Queen Camilla once again by his side, the monarch stoic and smiling for the short drive from Clarence House to Buckingham Palace. They soon chop it out of London. bound for the countryside, but not before a family reunion.
Breaking news, Prince Harry is now back in the UK.
Harry heard the news firsthand from his father. Strained, if not estranged from his family, their meeting was a brief one, just 45 minutes.
That's an indication of worry, given let's talk about everything that Harry has said about his father's institution and his father and his brother in books and film and Netflix documentaries recently, and he's coming over that soon.
Both William and Harry are among the 5 family members designated to pick up the King's workload if he can't. But for now, Charles will carry on with his constitutional duties, including weekly meetings with the British Prime Minister, who today went further than the palace in speaking about the King's condition.
Thankfully, this has been caught early, and now everyone will be wishing him that he gets the treatment that he needs and makes a full recovery.
It was only 8 short months ago the British public was gathered here to cheer on the King at his coronation. Today they're back with well wishes, and for many his fight is a deeply personal and all too familiar one.
I've got cancer, I'm prostrate, and when he come out with it like that,
The King's willingness to share his diagnosis praised by doctors, but for now the rest is staying in-house.
Your Royal Highness, how is the King?
The royal standard's been lowered at the palace tonight, the King out of sight, but front of mind for many.
And Ashley Mullaney is in Sandringham tonight. And Ash, we don't expect to see Charles for a while now, but Prince William will be out and about today?
He will, Sharyn, and he'll have a busy schedule. Not only will he be picking up some of the work from his father, but he'll be busy caring for wife Catherine, who's still recovering from surgery too. Harry won't be stepping in to help. He has, of course, declared that he's no longer a working royal. No plans either to meet with his brother William. No signs of any reconciliation as their father recovers and undergoes treatment, outpatient treatment for cancer here at Sandringham with the Queen by his side. Sharyn.
Ash Mullaney with that report. 6 children have been hospitalised after ingesting a mystery powder at a Townsville school. Jordan Bissell, one student was nauseous and vomiting.
That's right, Sharyn. 3 ambulances, including a critical care paramedic, were called to the school after a boy who'd taken a brown powder fell ill. In total, 8 children in their mid-teens were assessed at William Ross State School in Annandale around 10:30 this morning. 6 needed to be hospitalised. Tests are now being run to identify the powder.
It's been sent off for toxicology to the police. It was in powder form, in a bag. Couldn't tell you what the substance was, unfortunately.
A second incident saw the school forced into lockdown after children carrying weapons were spotted running from a neighbouring school, Southern Cross Catholic College. The lockdown was lifted shortly after, Sharyn.
Jordan Bissell there. A probe into soaring prices has found Australians are being ripped off by some of our biggest companies. The report points the finger at banks, supermarkets, energy providers and airlines and calls on the Albanese government to take urgent action.
The former competition boss tasked with answering the inflation crisis question everyone has asked. Just how much were price rises price gouging?
My conclusion is that Australians are paying prices that are too high, too often.
Professor Alan Fell's 80-page union-funded report scathing. The impact of inflation has been immense, with many consumers overcharged continuously. The industry attracting the most complaints.
Our inquiry was flooded with submissions and concerns about supermarket prices.
Dishonourable mentions for energy.
The electricity industry is riddled with questionable prices.
Health and surgery.
They've skyrocketed, in some cases 300%.
Banks, a significant lack of competition. Early childhood and care sectors riddled with overcharging. NDIS users massively overcharged for basic needs. Harshly critical of Qantas too, even suggesting the government consider laws to break it up.
There is a case for it.
Big business has hit back. Coles critical that companies like theirs weren't invited to take part in the inquiry. They called that disappointing.
Either way, the report has gone to government, recommending an investigation into exploitative business pricing, a new pricing watchdog, stronger competition laws making it illegal to overcharge, and payments for whistleblowers to dob in dodgy business.
It's actual enforcement. That's what's really important.
Noting that right now, extreme price gouging isn't even illegal in Australia. Chris Reason, 7 News.
A Gold Coast mother accused of killing her son by poisoning him with a fruit smoothie has been granted bail after more than 6 years in prison. Rachel Baxter, Marie Crabtree is expected to walk out of the Supreme Court tonight.
That's right, Max. Any moment now. Freedom for this woman after 6 years, 24 hours after her murder trial was dismissed. The Gold Coast mother is accused of killing her son Jonathan by poisoning him with prescription drugs in a fruit smoothie. Fresh evidence now raising concerns about the prosecution's key witness and the entire case. Justice Peter Davis declared the case was weak and the key witness, her daughter, probably destroyed evidence. Mrs. Crabtree is still facing charges of murder, attempted murder and fraud, and she has been let out on bail on strict conditions. She must wear a tracking device, she must not go anywhere near her daughter or speak to her at all, and she will face court again next month. Max.
Rachel Baxter at Supreme Court tonight. The parents of a Mackay toddler have been charged with murder following a 14-month investigation. Police allege the little girl had been sick for some time and the couple failed to find her the medical help she needed.
After 14 months and an extensive investigation, this morning police swooped on Jessica and Adam Hanbury, the parents of 2-year-old Diana, arresting them at their home and charging them with murder.
It's an extensive investigation that's been conducted by investigators from Mackay Child Protection Investigation Unit.
Diana Hanbury was the youngest of 5 of the couple's children. Her mother took her to Mackay Base Hospital on December 29, 2022. But police say despite medical staff trying to resuscitate her, it was too late.
Unfortunately, at that time, the child was already deceased when she was presented to the hospital.
In February last year, detectives appealed for public information, releasing CCTV of Diana's final hours, showing her accompanying her parents to a chemist.
A lot of locals have come forward with information which has been valuable.
Police say Diana had been unwell in the days before she was taken to the emergency department and will allege her parents neglected to get her appropriate medical attention in the lead up to her death.
It's what's referred to as reckless indifference.
The 37-year-old mother and 38-year-old father will face court tomorrow. Katrina Blowers, 7 News.
A teenager has been charged with the murder of 29-year-old Kira Marshall at Morayfield last month. Police say the mother of 2 was inside the unit on Grant Road when she was fatally shot on January 28. The 18-year-old accused murderer called 000 shortly after. He's also facing firearm, ammunition, dangerous drug and stolen property charges.
Australian workers will soon have the right to ignore or even hang up on bosses when calls or emails are sent after hours. The controversial change is part of wider workplace reforms, all set to pass Parliament.
In a connected world of mobile phones and laptop computers, disconnecting from work while at home can be difficult.
You shouldn't have calls after hours. Work-life balance is important.
I'd want my free time with family and whatever I'm committed to.
Today, an agreement with the Greens and the crossbench means the government's legislation will pass, stopping bosses contacting employees after hours, except in exceptional circumstances or when they're officially on call.
When you clock off, you'll be able to switch off.
In return, the Greens will back the government's broader industrial relations reforms, increasing rights for casual and gig economy workers. With crossbench Senator Lydia Thorpe's backing.
I am supporting the bill. So many governments have ignored working class people and the battlers in this country.
And the government luring ACT Senator David Pocock's deciding vote.
I think there are very legitimate concerns about people getting hassled out of hours.
Business and the coalition are fighting the changes. They say they should be made in workplace agreements, not laws.
This government just loves making rules. They love making laws, don't they? About things that, in all honesty, should be common sense.
Yeah, this is something that should be sorted out at the enterprise to enterprise level.
The government has backed away, though, from threats of penalties on bosses who contact workers outside the rules, instead ensuring workers who don't pick up the phone aren't penalised either. Those broader reforms will allow casual workers to more easily convert to full-time jobs if they wish, and give gig economy workers like Uber drivers and home delivery people a new employee-like status, and that will allow them the same pay and conditions of a regular employee doing the same work. And tonight, the government is congratulating itself having won David Pocock's casting vote. Sharyn?
Mark Riley there in Canberra. 31 hostages held in Gaza have now been killed, according to Israel. That's a fifth of those taken captive in the October 7 attacks. Hamas has now responded to the latest ceasefire proposal, including the release of the remaining hostages during the US Secretary of State's visit to the Middle East.
We're reviewing that response now, and I'll be discussing it with the government of Israel tomorrow.
At the same time, the leader of Yemen's Houthi rebels has warned they will escalate attacks in the Red Sea if Israel's operation in Gaza continues.
Donald Trump could soon face one of the most sensational criminal trials America has ever seen. A federal court has now ruled he does not have immunity. As he defends charges, he tried to overturn the 2020 election result.
Still clutching at the privilege he enjoyed as a one-term resident of the White House, Donald Trump's dream of lifelong presidential immunity today shredded by a US appeals court. We cannot accept that the office of the presidency places its former occupants above the law for all time thereafter. USA! USA! It means Trump, to the annoyance of supporters, will now have to answer at trial for his attempts to overturn the 2020 election.
And we call it lawfare, and I think there's no other way to describe it.
The blistering 57-page judgment was unanimous, ruling former President Trump has become Citizen Trump with all the defences of any other criminal defendant, adding that giving him immunity would collapse our system of separated powers.
Collapse our system of separated power. So that's a sense of the tenor of this decision.
Online, Trump fumed a president needed full immunity in order to properly function. A nation-destroying ruling like this cannot be allowed to stand. If the Supreme Court does ultimately decide to take this case on, timing will be critical. Running to take back the White House, the former president's diary is already quickly filling up with campaign stops and courtroom appearances. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
Time now for a quick weather check, and Bertie, some showers around today.
That's right there, Sharyn. We woke to showers this morning, and high chance we'll fall asleep to the sound of showers falling again this evening, and of course tomorrow morning more of the same. We've got that little trough just pushing through, of course, strong southeasterlies forecast to at least the end of the weekend. Today's temps, everybody, highs of 30 to 31, coastal region, only about 30 degrees in the city, down to 25 degrees overnight, 23 last night here on the Gold Coast, so quite warm. In the west around Ipswich, it got up to around 31 degrees, which was the warmest across most of the southeast today. I'll be back a little bit later with just how long this rain will stay with us.
Thanks, Bertie. See you then. Aircraft noise in Brisbane under the microscope. The new inquiry into flight path pain. That's next.
See a thief's clumsy getaway in a stolen car.
A fireworks factory explodes in a fireball.
And Queensland superfans swept up in Swift mania.
In 7 News, preventing diabetes. 14 million Australians on the verge. 2 in 3 adults overweight. Now, the fight back hits overdrive.
Great potential to put type 2 diabetes into remission.
Ozempic, Mounjaro, and the next big thing coming. The new weight loss options for 2024 on 7 News. Coming up.
A group of bumbling thieves has been caught on security cameras raiding a Bundaberg car rental business on Monday night. CCTV shows the trio breaking into an office, snatching a safe containing keys to a number of cars before making their escape. As one leaves in a stolen ute, they hit a parked truck. The thieves remain on the run.
Brisbane residents battling to curb airport noise have had a significant win, with the Senate to hold an inquiry into the issue. It's another step towards their goal of dramatically reducing flights into the city, something the airport says would be costly.
They fought noise with noise. that's been heard in Canberra.
Residents need a voice. Residents need a say over when planes can land and what paths they have to follow.
Greens senators spearheading and securing a Senate inquiry into aircraft noise and regulation.
I believe the ayes have it.
After years of complaints following the opening of Brisbane's second runway in 2020.
Definitely a good result for communities in Brisbane affected by aircraft noise. We've been working towards this with a lot of research that we've been doing.
The ultimate aim of campaigners remains to introduce an airport curfew between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. and reduce the number of flights during the day to just 45 per hour.
People are tired, people are angry.
Brisbane Airport Corporation believes caps and curfews would cost thousands in jobs, millions in economic activity and raise flight prices. In a statement on the inquiry, they welcomed the opportunity to talk about the essential role aviation plays in connecting Queensland to the world and efforts to reduce noise and look after our neighbours. The planes will keep flying overhead as these residents wait the nearly 10 months it will take for the inquiry to report back to government. And even then, it will have no actual powers to make changes. That requires federal government action, so the future of flights around Brisbane is still up in the air. Joel Dry, 7 News.
At least 11 people have been killed when a fireworks factory ignited in central India. The fire sparked explosions as it raced through the building. Around 150 people were also injured. The cause of the fire is not yet known, but the region is notorious for unsafe makeshift firecracker factories.
New Australian research is raising the reading stakes, why we should be looking at paper, not screens, to better absorb and retain information. Don't miss that story, coming up soon.
Also ahead, could trams return to Brisbane? The bold proposal to bring them back, but warnings of citywide traffic chaos.
Young criminals nabbed for boasting about their antics online.
The fight to protect Queensland bank customers from scams.
And a new frontier for weight loss, offering diabetes hope. Police have charged more than 140 alleged thieves in a crackdown on boasting and posting, especially among teen criminals on social media. New laws came into effect last year with a specialised team of investigators set up to track those who steal cars and film their crimes.
It's truly nation leading, and it is having an impact when it comes to apprehending offenders.
Under new laws, offenders can face increased jail time of up to 6 years.
The Greens have revealed a bold plan to bring back trams to Brisbane if they win power at the next council election. It's an idea that's been ridiculed by the LNP and Labor.
April 13, 1969, the last time we saw trams in Brisbane. Now, more than half a century on,
we're proposing to reintroduce the trams back to Brisbane.
A bold plan from the Greens that hits the nostalgia bone for many.
I love trams. I really enjoyed riding on the tram.
The Greens say Brisbane desperately needs trams again.
This project is essential in order to cater for the projected population growth.
But the LNP say it's a plan ill-conceived and estimate it would cost more than $6 billion to complete.
This is a Harry Potter policy. It won't work. It's pure fantasy.
The proposed route would run from Westfield Mount Gravatt via Kessels Road, Beaudesert Road and Ipswich Road and over the Story Bridge to the Valley, Newstead and Hamilton. Labor's candidate for Lord Mayor isn't a fan.
These uncosted, wild, big projects.
Under the Greens' proposal, the new light rail would take out 2 lanes of traffic here on the Story Bridge, but can it handle the weight? Fully loaded, the new trams are estimated to be at 228 tonnes. The maximum weight capacity of the 90-year-old bridge, just 186 tonnes. Questions the Greens will spend $10 million first on a feasibility study to get the answers before any work would begin. Steve Hart, 7 News.
A landmark court verdict may finally lead to gun reform in America. A mother has been found guilty of manslaughter after her son went on a school shooting spree. She gave him the gun and ignored the warning signs.
We find the defendant guilty of involuntary manslaughter.
Criminally responsible for the crimes of her son, Michigan mother Jennifer Crumley, guilty in a landmark ruling.
It's definitely a step toward accountability.
Ethan Crumley gunned down 4 students at a US school 3 years ago. Today, his mum was found grossly negligent for giving the 15-year-old a gun and for failing to act on advice that he receive immediate mental health treatment.
She negligently did not take steps to take care and protect the other children in that school.
The bombshell ruling has reshaped how America determines responsibility for mass shootings.
This is trailblazer of a case, and it could have repercussions in the criminal law across the country.
Defence had argued Ethan's father was to blame for not securing the weapon, while his school, it was claimed, didn't alert Crumley to behavioural problems. This, they say, was a mother just trying her best.
I am asking that you find Jennifer Crumley not guilty, not just for Jennifer Crumley, but for every mother who's out there doing the best they can, who could easily be in her shoes.
Ethan is already serving a life sentence. His mother will learn her fate next month. In the United States, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
It's been revealed 4 key bolts were missing from the door panel that blew off a Boeing plane mid-air last month. A preliminary report says it was likely the door was never properly secured. Boeing says it will continue to cooperate fully and transparently with the investigation while taking accountability for what happened. Tonight we can reveal the federal government is considering new rules that would place extra responsibility on banks and telcos to protect customers from scams. It could even force them to pay compensation.
Between them, they've lost a small fortune to scammers, and they've come to Canberra looking for help.
It's just so wrong that the banks can just brush us off.
Pushing the government to adopt UK-style regulations, forcing banks to compensate scam victims.
The banks made us feel like the criminals.
Kim Sawyer was conned out of $2.5 million in a complex investment fraud.
We put money in a bank rather than under the bed because we think it's going to be secure. We expect the banks to protect us.
Australians lose $3 billion to scammers every year. Most never see that money again.
The emotional impact is just massive.
Advocates argue making banks liable for their customers' losses is the incentive they need to do more to detect and prevent fraud.
The banks need to be on the hook.
But the banks warn refunding victims risks creating complacency among their customers, turning Australia into a honeypot for international crime gangs.
We don't want that here in Australia. What we want is to stop the scams at the source.
The minister agrees, but says banks, telcos and social media platforms should be held responsible when they're at fault, preparing to roll out a new code which will include some liability for losses.
There'll be clear obligations as well, and if they don't meet the obligation, then yeah, they're on the hook.
Rob Scott, 7 News.
Taylor Swift takes over. Coming up, the countdown to her Australian tour, how Queensland fans are preparing, and the warning to concert goers.
Why reading off a screen isn't as effective as books to help you retain information.
And a family's fright, a huge snake in a child's bedroom. To breaking news now, and Gold Coast mother Marie Crabtree has just walked from the Supreme Court after spending 6 years behind bars. She's accused of killing her son by poisoning him with a fruit smoothie. But yesterday, her trial was dismissed and she was granted bail.
It's been 6 years. How does it feel to be out? Are you relieved to be out, Mrs. Crabtree? Do you have anything you'd like to say? What are you going to do tonight with your first night of freedom?
And she'll return to court next month.
Australian researchers have found people who read books and papers retain information better than those who gaze at computer screens. It's a finding with big implications for education and indicates being a bookworm could have major benefits.
Hitting the books was once the time-honoured method of study. Nowadays, students are e-learning.
There are students who are on interactive whiteboards. There's one laptop per child programs in a lot of our schools.
But a new review claims screen time could be wasted time.
Something called the screen inferiority effect, which
suggests that comprehension is impaired when you read on a digital-based media.
And it gets worse for some.
Someone who has slightly less skilled reading ability, or for someone who's really under time pressure.
Researchers believe common screen struggles like eye strain, brightness and contrast issues could contribute, as well as electronic distractions like notifications, adverts, pop-ups, links and in-screen video.
They disrupt your comprehension.
The skill of being able to read also includes the skill of being able to focus and sustain attention. Books are fantastic for that.
But even when we do choose to read the old-fashioned way, it's believed our concentration and comprehension isn't what it's used to be. And the research suggests that constant multitasking on screens is to blame. But you can relearn to focus by just reading more. The study is published in a scientific journal available both online and in print. Take your pick. Amber Laidler, 7 News.
This is the kind of slithery sleepover nightmares are made of. Snake catchers on the Sunshine Coast have found a deadly brown snake making itself at home in a child's bedroom. Laying on top of the drawers, it slides down into a box in an attempt to hide. Luckily, he made it only as far as a bag and not the bed.
Hollywood heavyweights are descending on the Gold Coast ahead of the Australian Academy of Cinema and Television Arts Awards this Saturday. Tonight, the red carpet has been rolled out for a special screening of The Land of Bad, which was filmed in Queensland and stars Russell Crowe and brothers Liam and Luke Hemsworth.
But it's an old school action film. It's, it's big explosions, it's big guns and bigger biceps.
The Actor Festival runs until Sunday.
New weight loss options are hitting the market with plenty more to come, while there are hopes these so-called wonder drugs could also eradicate type 2 diabetes. Don't miss that story just ahead.
And sport time now, and Alissa, there's weight on the shoulders of a Broncos megastar.
Reece Walsh, Sharyn. Hello everyone. Brisbane's whiz kid makes a Visa Mercy dash, his desperate mission to make it to Vegas. Plus, last Aussie standing, a Queenslander's pipe dream continues in Hawaii. It's a restless night ahead for Broncos megastar Reece Walsh after his last-ditch bid to secure a US visa and play in Las Vegas. While he awaits international clearance, his electrifying sidekick Ezra Mems declared he was never a Red Hill flight risk.
A visibly unfazed Reece Walsh strolled away from a grilling by US immigration officials. Caught in possession of cocaine while a warrior, he faced a tougher screening process. At the same time, life as usual at Red Hill, except for Ezra Mam.
That's a little niggle in my groin.
It's forced the 5'8" to miss next week's All-Stars clash.
My workload is just a bit strenuous on my body, so it was a bit disappointing to pull out of the All-Stars.
But Mam insists he'll be round one ready and was always destined to re-sign with his beloved Broncos.
Probably never looked any further than the club. I grew up a big Bronx fan, debuted here.
6 years on from debuting for the Storm, introducing Captain Harry Grant.
I spoke to my dad, he said I just got to shout more, the skipper, so I might be asking Munster for a loan.
A belated inheritance of not only Cameron Smith's number 9, but now his responsibility.
Hopefully he can obviously do the job that Smithy did when he was obviously younger and guide these younger boys to the next generation.
Something to learn off, but also try and do it my own way and put a bit of a spin on it.
Just what new Blues coach Madge Maguire intends to do, issuing this warning to incumbents.
I definitely am looking at form right now, for sure. Obviously history is one thing. I respect all those boys that have been in the past, but one thing now, I'm telling everyone to look forward.
Mitch Crone, 7 News.
Forget rugby league, our national sport's about to launch an invasion on the United States of America. Leading the charge, legend Ricky Ponting, coaching a major league team and convinced co-hosting a World Cup will make America cricket's final frontier.
USA Cricket's biggest signing in red, white and blue.
I think it's just the tip of the iceberg was where cricket potentially heads in the US.
Come June, America's the game's mecca. Co-host with West Indies for the men's T20 World Cup. Major League Cricket then starts, Ponting on a 2-year deal to coach Washington Freedom.
The game's in my blood, coaching's in my blood. I think we'll see this competition in the next couple of years be attracting all the best players in the world.
Aussies Moses Enriquez, Ben Dwarshuis and Josh Philippi already play for Washington Freedom. America, cricket's final frontier.
I just think it's got potential to become huge, and I want to be a part of that journey along the way.
For the World Cup in the US, Mitch Marsh should be Australia's captain.
I know all his teammates love him and would love playing under him.
Brisbane Heat paceman Spencer Johnson replaces the injured Nathan Ellis for Australia's T20 series against the West Indies, which also marks Dave Warner's international comeback. Big hitter Jake Fraser-McGurk tipped to be fast-tracked like the veteran opener.
I'm definitely backing him one day to play Test cricket.
Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
Australia are chasing 230 off 45 overs to keep their perfect one-day record against South Africa intact. After passing a fitness to play, Marizanne Cab's 75 a standout for the Proteas. Rain wasn't the only thing players were dodging in Game 2 at North Sydney Oval.
Here it is. Oh,
that's going to hurt. That's an ice pack in the innings break.
The Aussies chase live and free tonight on 7 Mates. Tony Gustafson's gambled on a 35-year-old who hasn't played for the Matildas in 6 years for this month's Olympic qualifiers against Uzbekistan. Women's A-League gun, Canberra United captain Michelle Heyman's adamant she can help the Aussies book their ticket to Paris as a straight swap for Sam Kerr.
I score goals for fun, and I'm excited to be able to show that to Tony and to show that in training camp, and then hopefully, get the shot to put on the jersey.
Queensland Academy of Sport product Caitlin Torpey is set to make her international debut. Lions boom rookie Jasper Fletcher's determined not to become a victim of second-year syndrome as Brisbane prepare to ramp up their 2024 campaign. Ahead of Friday's intra-club hit-out, the Sherwood teenager knows he's no longer under the radar after kicking 3 in his first final and playing his 14th game in a decider.
Once you're in the system 1 year, that you're all on a level playing base now, that there's no, you don't come in as a round 1 draft pick, you're an AFL player now, so you really got to hold your own.
The midfielder turns 20 in a fortnight. Well, just one Australian remains at the Pipe Pro in Hawaii, and he's a Queenslander. Stratty's Ethan Ewing had a day to remember at Pipeline, starting with a win over 51-year-old icon Kelly Slater in the round of 32.
In the barrel, it's going to be a long one in front of him, and he comes out. Ethan Ewing.
Ewing then eliminated fellow Aussie Liam O'Brien to book a spot in the quarterfinals.
That hit against Kelly felt really good because I hadn't broken through that round before. Feeling a bit more comfortable, he is helping me out, so a quarter sounds good.
Callum Robson scored the highest single wave score of the day, 9.33, but went down to local John Florence in the round of 16. That is sport. Best of luck to the Aussies.
Indeed. Thank you, Alissa. Well, time to check finance now with Angela Cox. And Ange, the Aussie share market has snapped a 2-day losing streak.
That's right. It had more to do with gains across Asian markets than yesterday's RBA decision to keep rates on hold, the ASX closing 34 points higher. It was a good day for iron ore and lithium miners. NAB shares fell as the bank's CEO stands down. The Aussie dollar rose, buying just over 65 US cents. Gold is trading higher while oil prices fell. And credit card figures from December show Australians spent $26.25 billion, down slightly on November. But that pre-Christmas spend up was $1.24 billion more than December 2022.
Thanks, Ange. Well, if you haven't heard, Taylor Swift mania is sweeping the country, but ticketless fans are being warned to stay away from the concerts.
Venue operators have moved to shut down the trend of Taylor-gating as scammers circle desperate fans.
Few global pop stars have the staunch, obsessive fandom and dizzying emotional pull like Taylor Swift.
I'm 100% going to cry. No doubt about it. I will be bawling my eyes out.
Less than 2 weeks out from the sold-out Australian leg of her world tour, the Swifties are buzzing. Anika Brunelli is travelling from Caboolture to attend 3 of Taylor Swift's Sydney shows. She's also made more than 400 friendship bracelets.
Everyone's so excited and just wanting to just get on the plane and go.
Then there's the outfits. Which Swift era will you make or choose? Serious business for retailers.
$271,000 in the last 3 weeks. It's been amazing.
There is a downside in what's being dubbed TAFlation. Direct one-way tickets from Brisbane to Melbourne the day before the first show started more than $400. The most expensive, above $1,000, travel the next day and you'll pay even more. Scammers are also preying on hundreds of fans, costing Australians $135,000. Those without a ticket are being warned to stay away from the MCG to prevent scenes like this in the US. Fans have splashed out $126 million on ticket sales alone. The knock-on spending effect on airfares, accommodation and dining is expected to inject an additional $220 million into the economy. As Australia braces for a superstar world tour, Taylor's version. Garth Burley, 7 News.
New weight loss drugs are offering hope to type 2 diabetics. The risks, benefits and costs explained next.
And a few showers starting to fall here across the Gold Coast. More details on what's happening tomorrow after the break.
Doctors have begun prescribing the next phase of weight loss injections, which supercharge the Ozempic effect and may soon come in pill form. But they want the costly drugs to be subsidised for everyone to tackle obesity and ward off diabetes.
They're the diabetes drugs which have proven weight loss wonders. And soon they'll do even more.
In the next 5 years, we will have the great potential to put type 2 diabetes into remission.
Ozempic was one of the first diabetes injections to reduce appetite as well. Now newer, more powerful drugs are moving in, like Mounjaro, which takes the Ozempic appetite effect to all new levels and could soon come in pill form.
In addition, these medications, they all come with side effects.
With patients paying up to $1,700 a course, the Australian Diabetes Society wants the drugs subsidised for all.
Once you get to that point when you're causing 25% weight loss, you are truly managing obesity as a disease.
2 in 3 Australian adults are now overweight. 1.2 million are diabetic as well. But losing just 10% of your weight can help dodge the diabetes threat. But the health department says it relies on the independent expert advice from the Pharmaceutical Benefits Advisory Committee, and that medication can only be subsidised if it's recommended. And a warning to those already using the injections.
When people stop the medication, they can get weight regain. So yes, there are concerns with regards to yo-yo weight changes.
Lucy McLeod, 7 News.
Weather time now. Here's Paul Burt.
Thanks for that, Maxie. Hello, everybody. Coming to you live from Broadbeach Waters this evening here on the Gold Coast. A little bit of gusty wind just starting to kick in. Tells us there's a few more showers on the way. I'm sure we'll wake up to those tomorrow as well. Today's temperatures, everybody, had highs about 30 degrees across most of the southeast, including the city, down about 25 degrees overnight. To the west around Ipswich, highs of 31, 23 throughout the evening, and 24 to 30 here on the Gold Coast, 24, 31 sunny coast. To the charts now, you can see that inland trough pushing through the central parts of Queensland, bringing some more showers. We had that trough just snuck off the northern New South Wales coastline, and clearly with that big high pushing through into the Tasman, we're going to see that southeast trade really ramping up over the coming days, bringing more isolated showers onto the coast. The low sitting out the Coral Sea is not really doing too much at this stage. What we're going to see tomorrow around the nation is overcast conditions for Sydney, 20 to 25 degrees, rather cool down there. 11-24, partly cloudy for Canberra, similar for Melbourne, clear skies for Adelaide, 14 to 29. Back to the tropics now, a couple of showers starting around Cairns, Townsville and Mackay with a high of 32 degrees. 35 and a few showers also for Mount Isa, storm set for Weipa. Further south now, it's going to be partly cloudy for Rockhampton through to Gladstone and into Bundaberg, highs of 32 to 33 degrees. Staying that way for Emerald as well, 24 to 35. A couple of showers just tickling around at Longreach, 38 degrees, very muggy day up there. And also around the coastal stretches, pretty much Harvey Bay through to Gympie with a high of 31, down to 23 to 24 overnight. And those showers will extend into the west around Toowoomba, 19 to 25 degrees. So keep the brolly handy. In the southeast, yep, we're going to wake up to a few showers pushing through. Highs of only about 8 to 10 millimetres. Not a lot, but just enough to make the roads slippery on the way to work. Top of 30 degrees at Ipswich, 21 overnight. 23 to 29 Bayside, 23 to 30 for Redcliffe, similar for the Sunshine Coast, and a high of only 28 down here in the Goldie. On the water, southeast winds 25 knots, seas 1.5 metres. It's going to be rough out there, forget it. In the city, 23 degrees tonight with a high of 30 and a few isolated showers again between 5 and 10 millimetres. And looking ahead, staying that way through till about Monday with a top of 30 degrees on Sunday, 22 overnight, similar for Ipswich. Through to Sunday with a high of 31 degrees and then clearing up next week, similar for the Gold Coast though. Friday through to Sunday and Monday, highs at 28 degrees, down to 22 overnight for the Sunshine Coast. Showers staying a little bit longer, 22 to 29 degrees average, and that's going to stay till Tuesday, team. A few showers, enough to keep the tanks topped up.
Sounds all right, all right. Thank you, Bertie. Now, before we go, here's a story you won't want to miss tomorrow night.
In 7 News, Queensland's IVF generation. 1 in 6 babies given life this way. The breakthrough technology making families come true.
Certainly seen a rapid increase in demands.
IVF, more available and more successful, and why it's about to get even better. 7 News at 6.
That's all from us this Wednesday. Thanks for your company.
From all the team, have a good night.
Good night.